Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about, I want to say intuition. There's so much that's going on. Again, I feel like I start a lot of shows the same. But I'm interested in how things fundamentally work without giving a direct answer, without doing anything but asking a deeper question, a deeper rooted question. And I believe that, I believe that there's so much going on that is designed to absolutely overwhelm all of us, that it's hard to sort of pinpoint any one thing. It's like when you're given multiple options, how do you decide which one it is? Humanity doesn't like more than 2, maximum 3 options. And it seems to me that no matter where we turn, we're getting bombarded with foolishness, information, overload, unnecessary business. I don't quite know, like I said, how to put my finger on it. But I do know that this sensation of burnout is returning more with more people than I've seen in a long time. And what I think is happening with that is complete overwhelm. So a lot of my clients have a very similar problem where they've been going and going and going at all of the rates that they've been going. And it's like they're not seeing any more results. If anything, we're moving backwards. And this is a North America thing. I'm not speaking for the entire world because I don't know. All I know is the trials and tribulations, for the most part, in North America. Now, in North America, we have been beaten down with the chemtrails in the sky. And there's a lot of things that people don't take into consideration. I mean, why on earth was there ever aluminum in our deodorant? Putting things directly into our armpits. There's a reason behind that. But the combination of everything, right? Even down to 5G. Do you remember the huge push? Like, what's next? 6G, obviously. And there was a moment in time where it was cool to see the technology in cell phones. I don't know if you remember growing up. I mean, I'm pretty sure you remember growing up. It'd be weird if you didn't. But it was cool to get the new phone, the new tech, the new this, the new that. Everything was cool. Everything was cool. Right? But now we're at a point where it's virtually burnout. Who the hell cares? When was the last time the iPhone looked different, right? And so these are the metrics that we looked at as, not necessarily as kids, but growing through the tech phase. Cell phones are irrelevant now. I don't give a shit if it folds in half or if it does this or if it does that. Impress me, make my dog live longer. Don't give me a better cell phone. I don't care. The more we trust these things, the more we use them, the more autonomy we give away. I have a hard time remembering things now, which is ridiculous because my brain was always so perfect. But now it's like, well, sometimes I can have AI do it. Sometimes I can have it pull up a phone number. Sometimes it just knows, and I don't have to think the way I'm supposed to think, which is another form of imprisonment, which sounds weird. It's supposed to be liberating and freeing. And truthfully, it is. I have a hard time saying anything negative because I don't believe that things are happening to you. They're happening for you. I believe that this universe is creating a beautiful and wonderful, abundant experience. And on the surface, it looks like chaos. But without chaos, we never change. And I've been accused of this before where it says, people just say, or you just say stuff and you don't give any solutions. There are things that I can give solutions to. Like, I love doing mailbags where we're answering problems. The mailbags are fun. I could probably do another one. I might even do another one pretty soon. We've got a few emails. Actually, we did a huge poll on the Instagram And I got enough answers from that to do a mailbag. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to send us an email, info@thementalmasteryalliance. If you want to send us a text message, 647-338-1265. Would love to hear from you. If you want to buy a tinfoil hat, please do. TheMentalMasteryAlliance.com. Another fun thing that we've done on the Mental Mastery Alliance as well is created a chatbot. Yes, a chatbot. So many people talk about leaning into AI, and I can't believe he did this, I can't believe he did that. I thought you stood against it. And my overall take on that is an interesting one. Do I stand against AI? No. Did I at first? Sure. Because I was programmed to believe that, AI is Skynet. And Skynet killed John Connor eventually. They got him. But everything is programming. Everything that we've ever seen is programming. That you will own nothing and you'll be happy. So I look at all this and I think to myself, am I being manipulated into doing one thing or doing another thing? I'm also not sure if there's any proof that we are conscious. Like, what I mean by that is, who's to say we're not artificial intelligence? I had a dream last night, and I wish I could explain it, but it was monolithic at the time, and I should have written it down. It may have just been gibberish when I read what I wrote down. We've all been there. Keep a dream journal, man. You don't know what's going to come out. But it's the whole infinite greatness, infinite smallness thing again. All of the things that you can possibly believe about the world in which you inhabit are items that were handed to you. And now we have the ability to extrapolate, right? So if we think about the early education, I guess you could say, everything that we were ever taught is a fundamental lie. And does that make me a crazy person for saying that? No. Does that make me somebody who has the ability to see and think? Absolutely. But then again, I have to ask myself, how did I get the ability to see and think? Unless I was programmed to get the ability to see and think. And I feel like I was. I feel like that was part of my agreement before I got here. But the cool thing is, it's not about seeing it for what it really is. It's about understanding that while you were asleep, quote unquote asleep, you went through the motions and learned things. And there isn't really a shift that says now you're awake, you have to do things differently. It's more a continuation. We learned. We continue to learn. Yet we also accept the division style and tactic that this realm and reality is put in front of us. So we think that there's a difference between learning beyond what we've been taught and learning versus learning what we've been taught. And if you think about school was, it created the illusion that it was teaching you something. But it wasn't. It was brainwashing you. It was teaching you to regurgitate the story it was handed to you. Now, of course, there's always going to be somebody in the comments that says, oh yeah, mathematics, is that what you're talking about? No, Stephen, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about history. I'm talking about geography. I'm talking about all of these things that we are programmed to believe. And I'm not knocking the teachers because they were just doing their jobs. But when an NPC is handed a pile of information and that NPC is then in charge of handing you a pile of information, it's also a misdirect or an original direct. For you to see these things, you have to take into knowledge. For you to understand that there's something more and beyond what we've been seeing and shown, you have to be seen and shown something. So as we grow through what we've been shown, our education continues. We continue to flourish. We continue to grow. We continue to adapt and change and take that information in. And I find myself now in a situation where I've taken so much information in, and I'm continuing to take information in, and I'm getting that burnout again because my brain is tying this to that. My brain is comprehending things that for whatever reason didn't comprehend before. So I find myself getting more tired more frequently because my brain is constantly on fire. And it's true. you really have to sort of step into physicality at that point, because if your brain burns out, you got to go out there and be physical, hit the gym, mow the lawn, do something. But even that fun stuff, like I'm even sick of the gym now because it's just so repetitive: up, down, in, out, push, 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 pull, front, back. I've recently taken up longboarding again after like 20 years, and it's so funny how much your body is rigid. And if your body is rigid, so is your mind. It's these static movements in the gym. Sure, you're building strength and maybe endurance, and yes, it's absolutely healthy for you. I strongly recommend it, but there's got to be something more. This kinetic movement that we're into, this free-flowing form of humanity. It's funny what happens. It doesn't matter how strong you are and how great you are. You put yourself on that longboard, and you realize just how many muscles your gym experience isn't training. And so the gym is amazing because you're in shape, you're fit, you look fantastic. But you get on a skateboard, and there's all of these muscles where all of your body tries to balance itself all over again. And then you think back to the youth where skateboarding is bad. How many times did you see signs everywhere that was don't skateboard, skateboarding is bad? And it was just tied to this sort of stuff. But it's not bad. It's physical activity that's fun and exciting and really good for you. Like if a bunch of 50-year-olds right now were skateboarding, they would be in way better shape than a bunch of 50-year-olds at the gym. I say that because I'm 46 years old. And I realize the gym is fantastic, but this idea of getting your form back from skateboarding is phenomenal. On top of that, longboards everywhere. If you're a heavier individual, go for a longer board. I went for a 42-inch board, and it supports me fine, a 42-inch drop deck. And I'm sharing this with you because it's a game changer. It's the ability to really push your body and to challenge it. And I went out there for the first time. I mean, when I first went out, the first time I went out, I could barely even stand on the board in my living room. I couldn't even stand on it because I didn't have the dexterity. Giving me 15 minutes with the board, some of the memory comes back from when we were kids, which is really cool because you're like, fuck, I feel 20 years younger. Instantly, you get this dopamine hit of like, I feel 20 years younger. But then I overstepped. I pushed a little bit too hard, and then I fell off the board. I didn't fall down, but I had to, jump off and run to catch myself up. That shit made me laugh hysterically internally. Me trying to overcorrect my forward momentum, like my head was too far forward type of thing. It blew me away. How my body just didn't have it to naturally do it. Now, granted, I did recover, but I'm like, if anybody filmed that, I would have looked like, the closest thing I can figure it is a penguin preparing to flop onto its belly and go down a giant hill. I am a penguin belly flop. And it's funny, And so we live in this world. I'm tying this all together, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very good story. We live in this world where you're taught physical health. You're taught to go to the gym, but you're not taught to move properly. You're not taught to do all these proper things, which is the weirdest thing in the world because for generations, all we ever did was move. We just kept walking and moving and doing this and doing that. And now we live in a world where for the past 30 years, it's just been gradually getting more and more complicated to own anything. It's been getting more and more expensive. Gas up here is $1.78 a liter, $1.80 a liter. And to my American listeners, that works out to, I'm going to say roughly, because it's 4 gallons or 4 liters to a gallon. So you're looking at, $7.50, $8, depending on the flux. And depending on the actual measurements, $8 a gallon. Imagine paying $8 a gallon. Come on. So can you get mad at this? Can you get upset with this? Yeah, sure. But you can also adapt and roll with it. There are so many things that are happening right now inside this realm and inside this reality that's like, okay, well, I want to earn a little bit more money so that I can pay for my $7.50 gas. But we don't allow that. We're like, this is stupid expensive, so I'm going to start making cuts. So even now when the gas price goes up, you're starting to sacrifice. But we all know that the gas price is going up because they're going to do their best to push people out of gas-powered cars. They want you in electric cars because now you're living in 5-minute cities, 15-minute cities, whatever it is. And the funny thing, too, is when you are aware, you watch these things go up, you're like, holy shit, they're just telling the people that we're putting you basically in prisons, that you're not allowed to travel or go out of this because of the environment. They're using the environment as a lie, as a myth. And when you start talking to people, there was a moment in time in my life where I couldn't have these conversations. I couldn't say these things because I was so afraid of what other people would say. I didn't have my voice. And this is to anyone who's making a difference and to anyone who's making change. You don't have your voice. Your voice consists of everything that you've been taught. And everything that you want to speak on and that you want to know and that you feel will be a draw is almost impossible for you to do because there's no firm ground. I've said this before. It's like learning a new language. When you think in French, la bibliothèque, your brain goes, the library, the place where the books are, the bibliothèque. But when you only know French, you don't correlate it to another language. You do in English. And it's the same with this. When you're learning the fifth dimension, when you're learning above and beyond, you don't correlate it to anything that you can. What you correlate it to is what you already know. So when you try to say something esoterically, energetically aligns, you then try to justify that with third dimensional knowledge. And it can't because that's a limitation. This is where the ascension comes from, in my opinion. So I'm saying all this, and the ascension obviously being the rapture. You're watching people ascend. And are we going to heaven? I mean, shit, heaven is a place on earth. It's a frequency. It's not physical. Physical is low vibration. The lower the vibration, the slower things vibrate, the more physical they become. The higher the vibration, the more things vibrate quickly. You get much less physical. So it's really hard to explain to somebody who doesn't want to listen. The cool thing, though, is it's you explaining to yourself. And the more you explain to yourself, the more you comprehend. So the more you talk about stuff, which is where the podcasts help, the more you talk about stuff, the more you comprehend. I have a friend, Amanda, who before I started a podcast, absolutely contradicted everything I said. And it was so fucking annoying. And I told her to her face, I'm like, you are the worst. She wasn't the worst. She knows I was just kidding. She knows I love her. But she made me describe everything to her. And when you understand the fifth dimension better and better, and then you get into the sixth and seventh and eighth dimension, you can ask yourself, what's that all about? We can go into it. I'll do a whole podcast on what to experience when tapping into seventh dimensional thinking, which is, it's phenomenal to be out here. And it's so easy to get fallen back in. It reminds me of Down In It, the song by 9 Inch Nails. If you haven't heard that one in a while, throw it on. But you're hooked. You're so easily drawn back and pulled back into third dimensional speak. But the more you speak, the more you articulate, the more you understand for yourself. And then the more you do that, the more you realize you don't need to speak for other people that don't understand you. And then the more you do that, the more you realize that the people who do speak against what you're saying give you an opportunity to comprehend, course correct, extrapolate, find out what other people need to hear, and then allow your speech to get better and allow you to learn more. It's the same thing when you were thinking about when you were in geography in grade 9 and you were learning about certain things. It made sense because they were tied to other things. You know how, in your mind, how big Canada is versus how big the United States is. But there are people out there that don't know anything about geography. When you watch them on some of the podcasts, he's asking, stupid questions or questions that people don't have the answer to. And you think, okay, well, how come this person doesn't know? But when you tie that into the knowledge that you have, you can say, okay, well, this person doesn't know that there are 51 states, 52 states. I grew up in a timeline that there were 52 states. There were 52 stars on the Star Spangled Banner. And now I think there's only 51. And it confuses the hell out of me. But that's a Mandela effect. So that shit's happening too. So there are things that make sense. There are things that don't make sense. There are things that take place. And then there is information that's constantly being pushed on you. So if you look at the media, if you look at yourself, if you look at what you're trying to comprehend, and if you're trying to apply to yourself the knowledge that you need to apply to achieve the goals that you need to achieve, understand that the information that you're applying is fraudulent information. It reminds me of a shirt that I saw once as a child. You're not playing with a full duck. It's just this image of a duck that's all scattered. His head is over there. His bill is over there. His feet are over here. Your duck is not all in a row. I think it's a play on words. You're not playing with a full deck. And so for me, I look at this stuff and I think to myself, okay, so everything that I could possibly extrapolate based on what I do and don't know comes from information that was handed to me intentionally as a misdirect. And it's not a negative thing. It is just a thing. It is one of the coolest things because once you start understanding that, once you start comprehending that the information that you do have is available to you to extrapolate, then your brain starts really firing it off. And the only way to get there too is to speak, is to create, is to podcast, is to blog, is to put your ideas down on paper. Because much like your physical self, when you don't have that kind of movement, you don't understand it. So I've tied them both in here. The physical movement is great at the gym. So the mental movement is great in the third dimension. You can get super strong at the gym, jacked. You can get super strong in the third dimension. Everything society ever taught you to learn. You can master money. You can have all of this stuff. You can pay your government. You can pay your 51% in taxes. You can handle the $2 of gas, $2 a liter for gas. But you can't at all function in the fourth, fifth, or sixth dimension to see things differently, to create things differently. And honestly, not a lot of people are supposed to. Because those who are waking up need all of the people in here to make their story make any sense. By contrast, for you to find out who you are, you must first know who you are not. For you to want to do something more, you have to see people doing something you do not want to do. You have to communicate with people who are still dead asleep and go, I can't be like you. I don't wish you to be higher. I just can't be like you right now. I need to do more for me. So you can do all of the physical stuff in the gym, but you can't ride a skateboard because that's all micro muscles, minuscule adjustments throughout the entire body all the way through. And it's fascinating. I did 20 minutes on the longboard, and I felt like I'd been at the gym for an hour. It's one of the greatest. It reminds me back of the old adage where the professor's in front of the class. He's got the jar, and he fills it full of rocks. And the kids say, and he says to the kids, "Can you put anything else in this jar?" And the kids say, "No, absolutely not." So then he pours in a bunch of pebbles, and a ton of pebbles go in the thing and fill in the cracks. And he says to the class, "Now, can we put anything more? Is it full now?" And the class says, "Absolutely, it's full." And then he pours in the sand, and it's filled it right up. And he says, "Now, class, can we get anything else in this jar?" And they said, "Absolutely not. This time you've absolutely filled it to the top." And then he pours in some water. Now, the cool thing about that analogy too is the boulders must go in first. Those are the big things in life. The sand can go in to fill in the cracks. Absolutely. Or sorry, the pebbles, the smaller things. And then the sand can go in to be the minute details. Now, without the sand, you don't have a firm brick inside that jar. You have gaps all over the place. And that's what's going on with the body. Without the sand being poured in, without doing the micro stuff, the simple stuff like learning to run, being good on balancing beams, things like that. Riding a skateboard. I come back to riding a skateboard and riding a bike. Your body naturally fills in its own crevices with the small, minute adjustments. This is the total package for your body. The same goes for your mind. So when you are doing your best to fill in the small crevices in your mind, you have to take in all the information. Because if you look at just the boulders inside the jar as the third dimension, as the information that you were handed in school, as the information that you were handed from the television, from Joe Rogan, from me, that's the big stuff. The small stuff is what you think about the big stuff. And the sand that goes into the jar on top of the water is the stuff that comes in after, because the big stuff had to be in there to create the desire for the small stuff. If you didn't put the big stuff in first, you wouldn't see the holes. The holes are filled by the pebbles. Great. A bunch of great stuff that went in there. And now there's still holes. Now you've done the first layer of deep diving, and there's still holes. So the sand goes in and fills the rest, and you shake it all about a little bit. And now you've got yourself a very full compound. Then you add water, and you've solidified that compound. So there's always room for more, which is your growth. So when people don't want to grow, that's cool. Use them to continue your growth. You don't need to, I would say you don't need to change anyone's mind. You don't need to do anything. There are people who are so hell-bent on being themselves. You just allow them to be. Use them as soundboards. I think back to Amanda. I think back to me prior to having the podcast. She made me constantly explain my thought processes, which made me add more sand. My ideas were the big rocks. My presentation were the pebbles. And Amanda gave me the sand, the fine-tuning, the details inside a new idea. And so that went into the podcast, and that went into creation, and that went into all this. Like right now, I've been rambling for 24 minutes. And the cool thing about that ramble is it makes so much sense to me to get this out here. And I'm a little bit smarter for having said what I've said, because now it's out. It's out in the open. And I can expand upon it and grow upon it. And whatever's in here can help you guys think a little bit about what it is that you need to think about. So when it comes down to any major problem that you're having, you'll get the opportunity to see how to handle it. First off, by handling it. And second off, by fine-tuning it. So I'm going to go back to what I started talking about earlier too, with regards to having a new bot. We designed, we vibe coded a brand new bot on the website, and it's been beta tested for the past week, and it's ready for mass consumption. There's still some fine-tuning details, obviously. That thing will never be perfect. So I invite any of you guys to go out there and check it out. It's the mentalmasteryalliance.com/TMMA-chatbot. And it's like ChatGPT, except for it's programmed to sound like me. It's also got some training wheels pulled off it, some barriers. So you're going to get deeper cuts. I'm going to strive to see if I can't break a few more things, because what people don't know recently is that Claude, one of the chatbots, they quote unquote leaked their part of their source code. So now Claude has become open source. So now we got the opportunity to play with it. So that's really cool. And what I created, I think, is kind of fun, because it's going to give you the SaaS attitude and stuff that you come to love and grow, learn with me, but as a chatbot. And it's also going to come in handy later on when we fine tune it a lot more, and when we can program it to help people, to truly help people, not just be a generic chat. We want it to be integrated with, hey, you've got these questions, and we're going to send you the emails. Here's how it's all going to be backed up, and we're going to just zip it out to you. There's a lot of fascinating things coming down the pipe, because this world is changing drastically. You don't need a 9-to-5. That's terrible. That's prison. You need to find something that you love, and then figure out how to work with somebody to create the thing that you need to and want to create. So I say all this because we are entering, or we have entered, the year of the fire horse, or the era of the fire horse, which is growth. And we're sort of sitting there at like the worst point, where it's like everything feels like a trap. Everything feels like it's been taken from us. Everything feels like it's just progressively getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And theoretically it is. But there are ways for you to say, okay, it's only getting heavier because the pain of change must outweigh the pain of staying the same if we're looking for growth. And so that's what's going to happen. Revolution isn't war. It isn't fighting. It isn't this, that, and the other thing. It's understanding and comprehending that over the course of our entire lifetimes, they've talked about global warming, global cooling, now climate change. They've talked about the polar ice caps. They've talked about the raising waters of the ocean and how we're all going to get flooded out. Nothing has changed over the course of time. They're talking about viruses everywhere. They're talking about we've only got this much time left. They're talking about the Cold War between Russia and the United States. They're talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis. They're talking about war. Right? If you turn on the news, if you pay attention to this realm, all it is chaos. It's continual chaos. We've also lost any sort of brevity when it comes to balance. The extreme right sucks. The extreme left sucks. Everybody's got an opinion and everybody wants to fight. You open up that cell phone, you turn that social media on, and you realize that you have literally just opened the brainwash box. And so what are we supposed to do with that? Well, I don't have the answers for that either, but I do know that this world is what you focus on, right? There's a Project Looking Glass is, I don't know the exact thing, but it's a Hugh Laurie's in the movie. And that's what he's talking about. It's a Disney movie, and they're talking about how we've been projecting this into your realm, and then by projecting it, we're creating it. So every single thing that you see these guys project, and every single thing that you can catch up to on the internet is intentional. It's designed to make you feel that way, to feel that negativity. It's designed to pull you back in. And it doesn't need to be, right? You can utilize, you can see it, because nobody's going to put their phone down. People are still going to scroll and do this and do that, but you can train your algorithm to show you brighter stuff. You can also understand that every single ounce of division is designed to keep you divided. So when you see anybody aggressively approaching you on social media, for the most part, if somebody's just being a dick and they're being a troll, they have a shit life. And their humor is going online and hurting anyone that they deem to be above them. or that they have an opinion on. And you can't listen to people's opinions when they're just dumb shit opinions. The best thing you can do is take it for the humor that it is, because every single person is trying to be humorous or sarcastic or what have you. Not to take it personally, and not to allow it to prevent you from moving forward with the goals that you want to achieve. There is absolutely nothing stopping you from achieving the goals that you want to achieve. You get out there and you fucking get it done, because that's what you're here to do. Because you showed up in this realm to become something. One of my favorite quotes of all time. You're not born into this world, you're born out of it. Remember that. When you are pushing and creating and doing and becoming who you're becoming, and you never stop becoming who you're becoming. We have all these visions of all these people in our lives that have grown older, our grandparents. And what did they do? And do we want to live up to them? To anyone who's waking up, to anyone who's seeing more, you understand that they existed in your life to be a base point for either something you want to aspire to or something you don't want to. My father taught me a million ways to live life, all by proxy. In other words, he never showed me how to be successful. He showed me who not to be based on his own actions. And it made sense to me. It still makes sense to me. Ladies and gentlemen, if you, I strongly recommend heading over to the chat bot and having a little bit of fun with it. There is email capture, but the bot itself is free. It's usually on the 5th question. It's going to ask you for an email. We're not doing anything with the emails right now. If anything, we might add you to the mail out for the blog, because the blog's really cool. If you guys aren't checking out the blog's really cool. But again, if you're starting a business, the blog, any blog on your website is absolutely mandatory, because that stuff, the blog isn't for the people for the most part. The blog is for the bots. It's for the web crawlers. It's for the internet to understand who you are, how powerful you are, and how often you update your website. You want a blog. We handle that for you too, if you're interested. Reach out to us. info@the Mental Mastery Alliance. If you have any business ideas, hit us up at the chat bot. If you have any personal ideas, none of the chats are saved or stored or anything like that. They're all personal one-on-one chats. And if you have questions, this thing will answer questions on a much different tone than the very public, very friendly, very publicly traded corporate company of ChatGPT, of Claude, of all the other AIs. This one is built a little bit different, and I hope you guys like it. Also, don't forget to head over to the tinfoil section and get yourself a hat. We love our hats. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening this far. And in the infamous words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.